Well, welcome to NHM 310 Hospitality Management Accounting. This video is just an overview of the course and a review of the syllabus. One thing I will assure you is that this course is not dummied down from the on-ground course. We're going to cover the same information, have the same tests, and it's pretty much in the same format with some minor changes. If we were taking this on ground, you'd be required to attend the class, and since we don't have mandatory attendance per se in this course, you're going to have discussion questions that you'll have to answer, and we'll go over those in a little bit. As you all know, my name's Jim Taylor, and because this is a virtual class, and that virtual should be moved over on class location, the only way to meet with me, if we have to meet in the office, is going to be by appointment. I will be in town most of the summer during this course, but I do have other obligations, so it'll be difficult for us to have on-ground meetings unless it's just necessary during normal business hours. If we need to schedule a meeting because you're not in town, we could do that through FaceTime or Skype if we need to accommodate that. I don't as of now have a Skype address, but I'll create one if we need to have a meeting, but I could do it through FaceTime. I do have a FaceTime address. I think most of what we can do to solve problems can be done over the phone or via email. A lot of times if I just get on the phone with you and talk to you about the problems and your challenges and help you understand what you don't understand, things go pretty quickly. I do have examples of all of the problems that you have to do in the lectures, and what I recommend you do if you're having challenges with the homework problems is actually view the lectures. You can stop and start the recordings as I'm going through the steps of the problems, and they should start to make more sense. I'm not going to promise you that I'm as slow and methodical on my lectures as I am on this one. This is a pre-coffee video right here, so I'm going a little bit slower than I normally do. You're going to need the textbook. You're going to need the textbook before you get going on the course. I'm not going to email everybody homework problems from the textbook. There's readings that you're going to have to do in the textbook. And what I tell students is if you were to take this on ground during summer one, we'd have 2.5 hours of class time. When I teach this during the summer, I try to incorporate all of the homework in those 2.5 hours so that when you go home, all you're doing is reviewing what we've gone over in class. I would suspect that you need about 2.5 hours, 5 days a week to be successful in this course. So if you can't dedicate that time, then you may want to consider dropping it and taking it during the fall. I'm not going to read line by line on the syllabus. Basically what this course entails is the first 4 chapters should be a review of Accounting 201, and then we're going to go into managerial accounting, looking at cost, volume, profit analysis, and looking at forecasting and examining cash management and revenue forecasting for hotels and restaurants. If you've taken accounting, I'm going down to where the objectives are and where the evaluation is. If you've taken Accounting 202, you're going to see some overlap. Some of the concepts that I cover here are covered there. Of course, when they're covered in Accounting 202, they're not looking at it from a hospitality perspective. And I've actually been told by students that I do a little bit better job of simplifying those concepts so that they're better understood. So you do need to have Intro to Hospitality Management and Accounting 201 before you take this course. If you don't have Accounting 201, or if you failed it and you're on a what's it called, a tentative registration, you need to go ahead and pass that Accounting 201 before you take this course. Course evaluation, you get 10% for your homework. Your homework is based on attempt, and it's not based on correctness. So if you turn your homework in on a timely basis, you're going to get 10% of your grade. The online participation consists of the discussion questions and the responses to the discussion questions. So I have a discussion question for each chapter in this course, and you need to respond to at least 2 other student posts with a substantive response. If you go ahead and just write, "I like what you wrote," or "I agree with you," or "very good explanation," I'm not going to give you points. You need to go ahead and ask legitimate questions, or ask for clarification, or tie some of the lecture materials into their responses, or explain what was difficult for you and how you overcame it, or maybe even ask for help on a difficult concept of the question so that you can get clarification from other students. So use the discussion board as a way to actually gain knowledge or explain knowledge, and don't use it just as a way to try to get that 20%, because what will happen is you're not going to get all the 20%. And then finally, exams are 70%. You're going to have 4 exams in this course. There's 4 modules. We'll go over that when we look at the schedule in a bit more detail, but I will tell you that as soon as you can, you need to schedule your test either with the testing center here at Ole Miss or through ProctorU. Check the dates of the test. Those will not change. And schedule a time to take the test that works into your schedule so that you can work your work schedule or your personal schedule around your test schedule. Those days are really not negotiable. If there is a reason, I actually had a student who was using ProctorU. They got 3/4 way through the test and the ProctorU site crashed, and they had to go ahead and retake it the next day. If we have extenuating circumstances, I will go ahead and work with you on a makeup. If you're deathly ill and you get a hold of me in advance, we'll see what we can do. But for the most part, those test times are carved in stone. That's one of the disadvantages of an online class, but it's also one of the advantages. You can plan your entire summer without having to be in a classroom. ProctorU is a unique company. What they do is they actually use your video camera on your computer to watch you take the test. It's kind of a big brother thing. Students had positive responses last semester or last summer when I taught Accounting 467 with the ProctorU. And if you're not in town, it's a great way to go ahead and wherever you are, have the ability to take the test and get full credit for it. Okay, so I don't offer plus and minus grades. It's A through F. Hopefully it's A through C in this course, in this semester. Everything you turn in is mine, and the beauty of it being through Blackboard is there's going to be a record of it. I'm hoping that the way I set up the gradebook grades your tests accurately. I actually had some challenges last semester where the final grades calculated on Blackboard were not accurate in my 467 class, and I have thus updated that gradebook with my new knowledge, so let's hope that they both work right. If not, I will let you know. Okay, so you need to go ahead and consider this class like you would an on-ground class, and in that I mean the time that you put in it's going to be comparable to an on-ground class. You need to make sure that all of your comments that you write in this class are in an academic format. I don't want to see texting symbols. I don't want to see smiley faces. I don't want to see the letter U instead of YOU. I want to see punctuation. I've only got 3 ways to evaluate you in this class. It's by the tests, by your homework, and by your discussion. So your discussion needs to be in a professional format. Okay. I'm going to get real upset if I see that your homework looks exactly like another student's. Um, if I find that if I find from ProctorU or from the USM Testing Center that you've tried to cheat on the on a test, I'm just going to turn you over to the academic discipline authorities and let them take care of it. I don't know that we need to worry about plagiarism in this course, but if you do write something in your discussion threads that's straight from the textbook, you need to go ahead and reference that so that it's not considered plagiarism. As far as courses that are in your major, I actually got a phone call yesterday from a student that I had at Southern Miss who asked for a letter of recommendation for graduate school. And because he was a great student, and I don't mean an A student, but he was an engaged student in my classes, and I think he was also an A student, but that doesn't have bearing on me like writing letters of recommendation. If you're courteous and considerate of your fellow classmates, if you're respectful of me and your classmates, and you treat the class with the respect and integrity that it deserves, I'll be more than happy to write you letters of recommendation. I actually still ask, or let me rephrase that. When I applied for my job here at Ole Miss, I asked an undergraduate professor for a letter of recommendation. So your professors and your advisors are great resources for you in the future. But the only way that I can help you in your future endeavors is if I have a positive memory of you. So let's make sure that this course helps me have a positive memory of you, and that when you ask, or if you ask for help with a resume or with a reference letter, I have the ability to say yes and help you in those areas. All right, so if we look at the tentative schedule, the first module, oh gosh, this looked great before I pulled it up. Now my E's off of my module and my S's off of my assignments, but that's okay. The first module is the most challenging as far as the amount of information. It's 4 chapters. All the other modules are 2 or 1 chapters. The reason why the first module is 4 chapters is because most of it should be a review for you. Okay, I actually spent a little bit more than a week on the first module, and I do so because there are 4 chapters. But if you look at what the chapters are, we've got principles of accounting should be a review. Balance sheet should be a review. The income statement should be a review, and for some of you, statement of cash flow should be a review. I'm not expecting you to be experts at all of these statements. What I am expecting you is to do, or to have when we get done, is a firm understanding of them. And just so you know, I actually do have a test in 467. It's only a 1-chapter test that covers all of these 4 chapters. So you're going to see this information again. So after we take our test on chapters 1 through 4, we're going to go into chapters 6 and 7. I skipped chapter 5 because I cover it in NHM 467. And these 2 chapters have a lot of computations. They have a lot of algebraic work that needs to be done. You need to have a good understanding of chapter 6 to master chapter 7. Sometimes what happens, believe it or not, is the students that are kind of gray on chapter 6, then they go into chapter 7 and chapter 6 clicks. So the format of all of my modules is first you watch the video on the chapter, then you complete the homework on the chapter, and then you're able to pull up the solutions for the chapter. I would expect that you still, before a test, just like you do on ground, you go ahead and rework homework problems, and if I have a study guide, you rework those study guide problems so that before the test, so that it's second nature. And if you just memorize the problems and expect me to post a problem exactly like the ones in the homework and in the study guides, you're gonna be surprised. this is a 300 level class, so you should start having some developing some critical thinking skills, and I'm going to test you on those critical thinking skills. I've been told that my multiple choice are extremely difficult. Um, they're not going to be just simple questions with simple answers. They're going to require you to take the information that you've learned and apply it. So after we finish the second module, we go to module 9 and 10, module 3, which is 9 and 10, and that's forecasting and operations budgeting. Again, I believe, based on student grades, that this module is easier to grasp and learn than modules 1 and 2. So module 3 is actually a little bit more, I should say simpler, but I want to say more manageable than the other two modules. The weights for all these modules are the same. So the weight for the test with the 4 chapters is the same for the weight for the test for the 2 chapters. And finally, though, it's going to be the same for your final test. And your final test, I'll actually go ahead and post you a personalized test that you'll need to put in your the last 2 digits of your student ID, and it'll give you some unique numbers, and you'll need to do that on a spreadsheet and turn it back into me in a timely basis. So again, we have 4 modules. We've got 4 tests. The first one's going to be the most challenging, and then it's going to get a little bit easier, I hope, as we move along, for a couple of reasons. One, of course, you're going to get used to my tests, you're going to get used to the delivery method, and I think the material is easier to grasp. Okay. It looks on here as if, I guess I made an error, where on the module 3 you're actually going to have a module 9 lecture and then a module 10, or a chapter 9 and a chapter 10 lecture. They're not going to be combined. And you'll have to do it in the same format, where you watch the video for chapter 9, then you do the homework. When you turn in your homework, the solutions video will be available for you for review. If you have disabilities and you need extended testing time, or if you just require extra help for any reason at all, first, of course, notify the disability services, and then them or you will notify me, and we'll do what we need to do to give you extended testing time, or whatever we need to do. That is the syllabus. That's an overview of the course. As a quick review, after you watch this video, you'll need to take a quiz so that I know that you've read the video and that you understand the parameters of the course. Again, as a review, expect to spend about 2.5 hours a day on this course. Make sure that you're doing things as far as your discussions in an academic format. You're going to have to follow the chronology of first watching the lecture video, then doing your homework and turning in your homework, and then finally you're able to review the homework. You're going to need to go ahead and schedule your tests and have your ASAP, and have your textbook before the course starts. If you can't do all those things, you're going to want to consider taking this test during the fall semester. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to interacting with you in the online environment. Thanks.